Alright guys, welcome back to Wild Outdoor Living. So we're here to check out my Trek Stache. Now I've already done 2 reviews on this bike, and so you guys know how I feel about it. If you don't, definitely check those out in the info section down below. I'll leave some links. But this video here is just going to talk about some of the upgrades I've made and then go over the rest of the components on the bike, so you kind of have an idea of what they are and get a better look at them. Yeah, just for fun, I guess. Since I had a Stache before and I had sold it, when I bought this one I knew exactly what I wanted, so I did all of these upgrades at the same time. Normally when I go through here I say first I did this and second I did that. I did all of these exactly the same time, and they've worked out really well. So I never rode the bike completely stock, so I can't really comment on that too much, but I had ridden it stock in the last iteration, so I had a Trek Stache 7 from the year before. Some different components for sure, so there's some differences there. The first thing we'll look at is the race face turbine handlebar. So the Trek Stache comes with a 750 mil wide bar, and it comes with a 35 mil bar clamp. So that's something to definitely know if you're going to switch out the bar. I went with the 760 millimeter width. I wanted a little bit of extra width, but I didn't want to go super wide. I still want to be able to do long distances on this bike, and more than 760 just feels a little bit wide to me for that kind of setup. But I went with the race face turbine. It's got a little bit more rise than the stock bar does, and it's worked out really well, and I think it looks really cool. The next major thing that I decided to do was to get a Ergon SM E3 Pro saddle. So the Stache, like all other Treks, comes with a pretty generic Bontrager saddle. I never really liked the one that was on my last Stache. The new Stache came with exactly the same saddle, and so I decided to finally get a better saddle. Went ahead and measured my sit bones, which isn't going to work for everybody, but I started from there. I got their medium width, which was exactly what my measurement needed to be, and the saddle has worked out perfectly. I have another saddle on another bike that I got at about the same time that I've had to fiddle with a lot, and it's working well. It certainly didn't set up easily as this one did. I put it on, I set it up level, and it's worked out really well. It's not going to work for everybody, but for me it worked out great. I went with the Pro because it has the Tinox rails and the carbon shell on the inside, so it's a little bit lighter, and 150, 160 pounds where I am myself, wasn't too worried about breaking it, and it seemed to have worked out well so far. It's also sitting on top of a 150 millimeter drop line dropper seat post. So the Stache comes with a 125 Bontrager dropper seat post, just an OEM style post. It's similar to the drop line, but it's all blacked out and you can't actually service it. And then the lever is a little bit different as well. So with my last Stache, I had a drop line on there because it didn't come with a dropper seat post stock, so I'd had to upgrade to a drop line anyways. I really like the post. It actually fits in the bike perfectly for me, so I went ahead and threw that on there. I could not have it any taller, and it can't go any lower into the bike, so I slam it down and it's the perfect height for me. And yeah, just kind of a match made in heaven there, but it's worked out really well. Only other major change that I made, and this isn't really much of a change since the Stache doesn't come with pedals, but I put on the Chester pedals, which I've got on all my bikes right now. They work great, they're simple, and they're durable. There are some other pedals out there that are starting to compete with the Chesters that may be even a better value for you, but for me I went with the Chesters this time, and yeah, I haven't had any regrets at all. I've got some Mucky Nuts fenders front and rear. These won't keep you dry so much as they kind of keep dirt and grime out of key areas. So the one on the fork keeps it from piling up on the headset and on the fork seals, and then the one on the seat kind of does the same thing for the back of the saddle and the saddle rails. It'll keep some mud out of your shorts, but if it's super muddy, it's not going to do a ton for you. The only problem with this is a 29 plus bike, being the Stache, and once this dropper seat post is dropped down coming off of a jump, there's definitely a chance for this to get sucked into the tire, which I have had happen, and there are a couple of cracks in there, so that can be a bit of an issue, but it is what it is. On to components. The things that I've left stock are the brakes. They're Shimano MT500s, and they look really similar to XTs, but they cost a lot less. They're actually working really well. I haven't always liked this curved lever design from Shimano, but I got it set up pretty well for me, and I've actually really come to enjoy it. It seems to work out all right. The other major talking point, of course, is going to be the fork. This is a RockShox Yari. It's a 35 mil chassis. It is actually the little sister to the Lyric, and then some people think it's a step down from the Pike. It's actually not quite in the same family. A little stiffer than the Pike. The Pike is certainly lighter. It has the motion control damper, so not nearly as sophisticated as the Charger damper that you find on the Lyric or the Pike, but it works out pretty well. You get some compression up here and you get some rebound down below, and that's it. Other than that, you have, of course, air pressure for your sag, but that fork has worked out just fine. And yeah, I have no plans of changing it anytime soon, especially since I might be strapping stuff to it in the near future. Stache 7 comes with an SLX 1x11 drivetrain, and it has an 11 to 46 cassette, which is ridiculous. And if you can't have Eagle, this is probably the next best thing. You don't have quite as low of a low gear, and you also don't have quite as high of a high gear. So in order to get a similar granny gear, you kind of have to go with a smaller chainring, which Trek has done. They've got a 30 tooth chainring on here, which is freaking small, and it's on race face cranks, yeah, with their cinch design, so you can go pretty much as small a chainring as you want. The 30 tooth has worked out great. This is one of the lowest geared bikes I've ever personally owned. I had originally planned on pulling all of this off and putting Eagle on it, but unfortunately Shimano's resale value is not very good, especially the SLX stuff. And what I realized is that it shifts super smooth, and I don't really need the Eagle. If I wear this out, I might eventually go with a GX Eagle, because I do like that system. But for now, I'm just going to keep using this. It works well. There's no real reason for me to change it. Besides that, the Stache is super simple. You have the Stache frame, which is pretty darn hydroformed for an aluminum frame. And then you've got the elevated chainstay, which keeps chainstays super short. And you have the Stranglehold dropout. So you can go single speed. People have definitely had some issues with that, especially on the carbon frames. But if you need to go single speed in a pinch, you'll need like a 20 mil wrench. So kind of hard to do that the traditional way, but it is there. You can do it, and you can adjust the way this bike handles, so that is also a cool feature. The thing that I like about it is if I for some reason get tired of the 29 plus, I can always go back to a 29. I could go to 27.5 plus, although Trek's not really recommending that anymore, but you could do it. You got the option, and yeah, so it's pretty cool. My favorite part about this bike, or at least the frame in general, well, my favorite part is the fit, as you guys know. But the coolest thing that I'd like to show you in the bike check is actually the way the cables are routed. So if you look closely, you can see that they're basically all mounted on the outside of the frame. And then the one shifter cable is routed through the inside, but it's a really simple, starts down here, ends up here on the outside here, pops out. Super, super simple. As we go to the rear, we do have one going through the chainstay. Same thing as that shifter, which isn't a big of a deal. If it's a shifter, it doesn't bother me too much. And the dropper post comes out of the bottom of the seat post, so I don't have to route underneath the bottom bracket or anything crazy like that. The thing that I like the most about this is the brake line for the rear brake is mounted completely outside of the bike. It drives me nuts when I have to disconnect a brake line so I can mount it through the frame, and then especially if I have to resize it, that just ticks me off even more. But you know, it makes things slick, but on my own personal bikes, I really don't care. I want the brake line on the outside. That way I can pull it on and off really fast. If I need to swap brakes, or if I need to bleed and it's being kind of tricky, I can just hang it. I can do it off of the bike. I don't have to do it on the frame. And so yeah, that is super convenient, and that is why I will probably never sell this bike, because I don't think they're going to keep doing that. Other than that, that's pretty much the Stache. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Otherwise, we'll catch you later.